The enemy, he always fights you the hardest when he knows you're close to a new level of your destiny. And so sometimes when we get in those difficult times, we see it, man, why is this coming against me? Well, that's just a sign that God has something great right up in front of you. Yeah. In those tough times, that's when you have to be strong and show the enemy you're more determined than he is. None of us are here by accident. I think of this often, that when God laid out the plan for the earth or for the world, he had to choose people before the foundation of time. So he chose Abraham to live in his day, and David and Ruth and Esther and Sarah and the disciples, and on down through the New Testament. God is a specific God, a detailed God. But think about when God looked at the year 2019, he thought, who am I going to choose to live at that time? Right. Who can I trust to live at a time where you have technology and a lot going on in the world? Well, God didn't choose Moses. He didn't choose Ruth or Esther or Sarah for our day. He looked in your eyes and he chose you and me. Wow. And so he has equipped us. He's empowered us. So really, this is our time to leave our mark. This is our time to do something great. And by great, you don't have to be up in front of people. You can be great where you are, right where you are every day. So I just encourage you, again, know that God handpicked you. He chose you. He's equipped you. And, nothing you face is too much for God. No dream too big. God can, I said it earlier, one touch of his favor can turn any situation around. And that's what I've seen in these last 20 years, Matt and Laurie, is that, God can open doors that you can't open. God can make things happen that you can't make happen on your own. You stay faithful to him, you honor him, you be your best each day, and then you take the limits off of him. You don't know where God will take you. He's, opened the door to the Compact Center and put us in front of a lot of people, but it's easy for me to encourage people to let you know that God is good, that he's for you, that he's got big things in store, because I've seen it in my own life. And listen, he's done it for you in the past. He's going to do it again in the future. You wouldn't be alive unless God had something amazing up in front of you. And I've learned this, that the enemy, he always fights you the hardest when he knows you're close to a new level of your destiny. And so sometimes when we get in those difficult times, we see it, man, why is this coming against me? Well, that's just a sign that God has something great right up in front of you. Yeah. In those tough times, that's when you have to be strong and show the enemy you're more determined than he is, that you are in this to win it. And listen, God's going to turn that around, and he's going to take you to new levels of your destiny.
Beautiful. Yeah. Love that.
I always love to think that if the Bible was being written today, who would it be talking about? Yeah. And the least likely, the least tribe of Israel, or the least likely, like an Esther, or just the ones that, the fishermen that Jesus just picked for his disciples. Why not have it be written about us? Why not it be written about you? The little lady that reached out and touched God, touched Jesus and the hem of his garment. What would the Bible be saying about us today? And the battles, and how we fought well, and how we believed well. And I just love that. And I love this book.
Thank you.
And I love the person who wrote this book.
It is interesting that it is all about stirring up. Like you said, when you have to keep pressing on, fighting battles. You have to understand you're in the process. I have these two lemon trees in my backyard, and a friend of mine, we were out in the backyard and we were walking past these trees, and she said, she stopped and she's like, I love your lime trees. And I started laughing. I said, those aren't lime trees, that's a lemon tree. And she said, they look like limes to me, they're green. And I said, oh, okay. Well, those are lemon trees. They're going to turn from green to yellow, but they're in the process. And so often we get stuck in the process, and we have to understand that everything that we go through is building character. It's building a foundation for our life, that we are going to go from green to yellow. It's just going to take some time. And we don't want to get stuck in the process. So we have to stir up our faith. Like you said, we have to fight those battles. It always reminds me about what Paul said about the young protege Timothy. He said to him, Timothy was discouraged, obviously. Maybe he was even comparing himself to Paul. I can only imagine. You know, Paul was a wonderful writer. He was a great leader, and could have been comparing his life to Paul. I mean, you know, comparison is the worst thing we can do. But Paul noticed his discouragement. Paul noticed that he was getting stuck, and he wasn't going through the process the way he should. So he said to Timothy, Timothy, stir up the gifts that are within you. And see, I love that because he said, stir up the gifts that are within you. See, notice he wasn't saying, you know, go over there and get a gift, or that person's going to give you a gift.
Try to get one.
It's in you, but you have to stir it up. And I think that's what we forget sometimes. We forget that we've got everything we need, that God's not going to ask us to do anything that He hasn't already given us, prepared us for. Now, we may be in the process, we may be gaining knowledge, we may be gaining experience, but He's not going to give us an assignment that we can't fulfill. So I just think that sometimes we have to look at it and say, this is scary. God, I don't think I have it, but God, I'm going to rely on You that I do have it, and I'm just going to fight this fear with faith.